Welcome to EIPIP Meeting 63. We have quite a few items on agenda for today. I see we are joined by Colfax. I am assuming that he is here for one particular topic, that is GitPoab badges. So maybe we can bump that up and start from there before we get into our usual discussion. Is that okay?
That works for me. Yep, that's the topic I'm here to discuss.
All right. Colfax, maybe you can share about the GitPoab that you wanted to discuss, and then we will get back to item number 1 or whatever items are listed here for today's discussion.
Absolutely, sounds great. Thank you all for having me here today. My name is Colfax, and I am working on a project called GitPoab. And essentially what GitPoab is what we're doing is we're working on issuing POAPs that represent contributions central to the Ethereum ecosystem. So here, I'll just share my screen quickly. We've been working our way through the central projects to the Ethereum ecosystem and awarding POAPs for software contributions as well as other types of contributions. We've onboarded about 600 repos here, including like ethereum.org, many DeFi projects, core tooling projects. And the goal here really is to offer recognition for the work that's happening and through the issuance of POAP. So you can see here, this is the 2022 ethereum.org contributor POAP. There's 83 people that hold it. And so what GitPoab is doing is we've integrated POAP issuance into GitHub, and specifically, most of the projects that we have onboarded are software projects where they work on the flow of like submitting code through PR and then that PR getting merged. And I opened up an issue for EIPIP to award GitPoAPs to EIP editors and contributors. And through this conversation, it became clear to me that sort of the way that EIPs are developed is a little bit different from just writing software. And so what I want to discuss with you guys today is, one, we're excited to award GitPoAPs to everybody who's contributed to EIPs in any sort of way. And we would do that sort of by issuing an annual contributor POAP to the EIPs repo. And we're working on onboarding actually a few of these other repos that were suggested. And so today, what I wanted to do is talk to you about the tool that we've built that I think will be useful for awarding GitPoAPs to EIP editors, given that it doesn't work normally on just like a pull request model where the issue or where the pull request submitter is the most valuable contributor. Before I get into sort of the spec of the tool, I wanted to show you guys, this is our working design for the EIP GitPoAP. I'm happy to take any feedback offline, but I just wanted to share this with you guys. I can share this in the Zoom chat as well, if anybody would like to take a look. I don't know if anybody has any feedback or any thoughts to share about this right now, if you'd like. And I know it says 2023. We're going to update the date to be annual.
I mean, it looks good to me.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I think it's particularly cool to see sort of like the imagery around the Ethereum logo and the different components. And so there's a couple other repos that are related to EIP editing that we're working on a different GitPoAPs for example, like EIPW. And we're sort of taking sort of components of this sort of Ethereum upgrading process, and we're diving into it. So here's just like a little behind the scenes sort of aspects of like how we're coming up with our designs. And so I'll share with you next the tool that we're building to hopefully allow the EIP maintainers to award GitPoAPs to EIP editors. Thank you, PandaPit, for some early feedback. Basically, what we're planning on doing is building a bot. And we already have some components of this already built. And basically, it would be GitPoAP-bot, and you'd be able to tag it on a given issue or pull request. And so here's like an example one here. So if you go to an issue, basically what you would be able to do is say this was a particularly important issue. What you could do here is tag in a comment, like at gitpoapbot. And if you tagged gitpoapbot, it would award a gitpoap to the submitter, or you could also like tag it in a sentence if it were part of another comment, or you could specify like a list of usernames if you wanted to award it to a specific set of folks, or if you wanted to award the gitpoap to everybody involved, you can do at everyone. And it would actually go ahead and then award the gitpoap to everybody. And so that's sort of our initial idea for awarding gitpoaps based on not just like merge pull requests. So yeah, I don't know if I was talking to PandaPip before, in terms of awarding for historical contributions, we can help sort of automate the process in identifying and actually executing the bot for like past ones. But on an ongoing basis, we're hoping to sort of build a tool that can integrate into your existing workflows of reviews, and you can award them on the fly for meaningful contributions.
I think Victor has some things to say.
Yeah. Hi, Colfax. Thanks for coming. This is awesome. I really you hear me?
Your mic's kind of
Okay.
Just keep the webcam off. I think it usually works better.
Weird. So is it better now?
That's better, yep.
Okay, yeah, I love the ideas. The two questions I have is, one is that how do we avoid rewarding spammers? Because we recently seen that some people were issuing spam, posting spam issues. And the other one is, how do we, whether we have considered having different milestones for contributors, for example, like their first EIP or their first final or things like that. So as opposed to annual contribution or in addition to annual contribution. So that would be two of my feedback. And by the way, thank you for coming. I think this is the perfect venue to discuss this because you have PandaPip and Sam who are majorly on the on automation side of the.
Awesome, yeah, two good questions also. Yeah, thank you for having me here. I think it's a great forum to be a part of. So on the first one, in terms of fighting spam, this is something that's very much on our minds. And the initial, like the architecture of gitpoap for code contributions specifically only awards POAPs for merged pull requests, which inherently have manual review in them. So like any spammer that tries to earn one, they're not going to get it because the code is only going to be merged if it's actually meaningful. And it was something that we were definitely like our heightened awareness. We had a heightened awareness about around our launch, which happened back in April. And so far, nobody's reported back like an increase in spam pull requests being sent as a result of earning gitpoaps. In fact, somebody actually was tweeting yesterday saying that it's too hard to earn gitpoaps for spam contributions, which I thought was kind of funny. So in terms of like fighting spam, I would say that really lies in, so it's going to be only a manual process to award gitpoaps.
but I can make it, but I could have the EIP bot tag the gitpoap bot, right?
You could, and so the other detail here is that the gitpoap bot will only trigger an issuance of a gitpoap if it's tagged by a maintainer.
Well, the EIP bot actually has admin on the EIP's repo.
So then I guess we would have to talk about how possibly like if the EIP bot, if we want the EIP bot to be able to tag the gitpoap bot, we can work out those implementation details. But the idea, at least the way that I'm envisioning it, is one of the maintainers, so like either you, PandaPip, or maybe Sam, if a particular issue or pull request for a new EIP is valuable, you guys would go ahead and then manually tag the gitpoap bot.
So I'm concerned about adding extra work for EIP editors. So I'd like to see this be like as automated as possible. So when an EIP gets moved to final, then a person would become eligible. Is that kind of the process we're thinking here, or?
I was thinking make a bot that when an EIP gets merged as final, then tags the the Git app bot to then assign the Git app.
And it would be assigned to all
don't-
the authors of the EIP, or would it be
I think it would be assigned to all the authors of the EIP.
Okay. So yeah, as long as we can automate it and it happens for like after the transition to final is merged, I think that works.
And I think that I think that it should not be too difficult to do that. And since the EIP, I don't think that it requires any configuration with Git app itself, just because the EIP bot itself has admin. So if the Git app does it by pinging GitHub's API to see what permissions the sender has, well, the EIP bot has the permissions.
Awesome. That makes total sense. We can definitely do that. One of our core principles too is we don't want to add any additional work for maintainers. So I think configuring it with the EIP bot that would automatically trigger upon the mark final is a great solution.
I do see a couple of things that might need to be addressed here, maybe on the bot side, but I'll quickly mention that, PandaPeep, that would be like if an EIP is finalized, then the bot will tag the person or the set of authors who have contributed to that. But if you are making any changes post it is finalized, or minor changes, edits here and there, in that case, we may have to customize that to
it would only be when the EIP is moved from any non-final status to final, and then it assigns it to everyone that has a GitHub handle in the author field. That would be the conditions on which it would.
On a higher level, that sounds good to me too.
That sounds good to me too. And the Git bot as designed can support that. And we just need to figure out how the EIP bot would then trigger calling the Git bot.
I could just have it use the GitHub API to send a comment. It's not that difficult.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. Of course. And then let's see, to address Victor's second question. So the first question was about spam, and then the second question was about sort of like repeat contributors or sort of like scaling that up. The way that we're handling that right now for code contributions is we're issuing annual contributor Git apps. And so you can actually see somebody's track record if they've earned the annual contributor Git app over the course of a number of years, so like 2019, 2020, 2021. We haven't released this yet, but we're also working on visualization of depth of contribution within a year. So for example, if I've been an author now of like 3 different EIPs in 2022, granted, I'll only have the one Git app, but we basically have the metadata stored on like how you earned it. And we're working on different visualization metrics to actually signify that. So that's one aspect of it. And then secondly, specifically for EIPs, I think it could be interesting. So I think it's a good start to work on just issuing this annual contributor Git app for EIP editors. But going forward, if you guys are interested, for particularly impactful EIPs, if there were some specific ones, we could actually create a customized Git app with its own design and award that just to the folks who contributed to a particular EIP. So for example, it could be like the EIP 1559 Git app. So I'm just throwing that out there as an idea. If there are particular EIPs that you want to award separately from just like general EIP editing, we can do that too.
Credible neutrality, I don't think that will be happening.
If you guys want to determine EIPs that you'd like to award extra Git pull-ups to, feel free, but we as editors probably won't be doing that.
That makes total sense. I'll discuss with my team and sort of maybe we can, discuss with the community or something. But yeah, I'm just throwing it out as an option, but I appreciate that. Cool. We'll add some next steps. I'll sort of draw up the feedback that you guys have given. PandaPeep, I'll continue to coordinate with you on our development of the Git bot and how you can tag that with the EIP bot. And we'll go forward from there. I just want to say thank you guys so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Colfax, for joining and sharing this. I'm sure this is helpful and it will encourage more people to be able to contribute to the EIP repository and make valuable contributions.
Thanks, me too.
And people can always leave comment and feedback. I have shared the issue that is on EIP GitHub. Issue number is 134. Thank you. Moving on. Let's start from item number 1, which is proposals to include in preamble. We have collected quite a few proposals which are there to suggest some edits or updates for preamble in EIPs. The first one listed here is add finalized date to EIPs. I see there are already ongoing conversation. Yeah, anyone has any comment and thoughts to add for this issue?
You're actually missing one of the PRs that adds an item to the preamble.
I'm sorry, it has been merged. I know there was one created by Victor, I guess.
No, the one I just put in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
The adoptable.
Yeah, the adopter.
Yeah, that one seems no controversy, right? No one has.
Anyone have any objections to the adoptable?
I think that's a good idea.
Did someone approve it?
Any thoughts? Sam, if you're talking, you are muted.
No. I'm okay with adoptable, I guess. Yeah, I can approve it.
I don't have the vote. I'm in favor of this adoptable view.
Cool. Okay. So we could move on to number 2. I mean, sub-item for this one. Proposal to include superseded. I think it is a number 5265. I guess it was added by, oh, sorry, please go ahead.
Oh, just for the superseded, I'd prefer if it wasn't the status, and I would prefer if it was if it was an item in the preamble to say supersedes something, and then it's made clear that, hey, this is not an official thing. We're just suggesting that you use this instead of this other thing.
Yeah, I think putting something in the preamble for supersedes probably gives the impression that we as editors have allowed it to supersede something else, and I'm not sure I'm okay with that implication.
There would be a badge like the one for drafts or things in review, an extra badge that basically says, hey, this is a recommendation of the authors and does not and may not reflect best practices.
I'd rather just not include it at all. I think if somebody wants to withdraw an EIP and put in the withdrawal reason superseded by EIP X, they're perfectly allowed to do that, but I don't think we need a special field for superseded.
I think that
So
we have precedents of doing that, like with withdrawal, we generally mention that, which is, I mean, if there is the reason that any other EIP is better than the proposed one, we do mention it in reason.
So I'm the one that proposed this because it was inspired by IETF RFC, and there's an RFC field for a supersede so that the whole community can continue to evolve and notify the future readers of what something is being updated. So as much as I respect and understand the concern that Sam's had, I think we can, I love to kind of not try to propose approve or not approve for this PR on today's meeting, but to further discuss under what condition and who are able to add such thing, and whether preamble field is the best format, or is there other way we can do that signal. I can take that offline and follow up in the future.
I think that EIP 820 does a good job of this. So I'm just going to quickly send a link to the markdown file in the chat. So what it does is before any of the sections, it has like a big thing that says ERC 1820 has superseded ERC 820. So basically it's a, hey, this is the authors here saying that due to some due to a change in solidity, actually you have to use this other thing instead of this EIP. And this is currently compatible with what we have.
We can definitely keep the issue open for another few weeks. People can add comments and thought. Yeah, is that a good resolution, Victor?
I think so, yeah. I heard the concern and I'll document the concerns, and then I intend to continue to pursue a proper way to indicate that. So yeah, thank you for keeping it open.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Moving on, the next one is proposal for EIP preamble includes separate relates to field. Issue number is 5274. I guess this was also proposed by Victor.
Yes, I think the different people interpret the requires field differently. Some people, me included, see the requires and thought that it means a to implement some EIP, it requires some pre-existing EIPs to be implemented, to be final, and to be final for sure, but to be implemented as well. And that's that seems not aligned with Panda and with Mikau. And so I think the requires is a little bit confusing. So I'd like to see if there's a clarification, or do we need to add new field? Yeah,
So
go ahead.
So I just had an idea. Maybe we don't need a separate requires to field, but relates to field. But I wonder if we could just, I mean, I'd be okay if in EIP1 we changed it to so that it's only EIPs that are referenced in the spec that need to be included in the requires field. I'd be okay with that change.
So may I ask, under what circumstances do we feel that we want to have a special call out of EIPs being referenced, other than the body already have a requirement to link to EIP if they mention that?
Yeah, that's my thoughts as well. Like, why do we need a preamble field if we already require them to be linked?
Well, I can see a use for having it at the very top saying, hey, read these first, but
That's required, right? You have to
Yes.
read these to understand the CIP.
yes. So I would be okay if in EIP1 we changed it to be anything that's included in the spec has to be included in the requires.
I'm not sure. Sometimes the boundary can be quite blurry, right? For example, the introduction of create to is a prerequisite in some of ERCs, but that you don't necessarily need to understand that create to or read create to be a reader. You might need it to be able to author it, and if someone has handled that for you on the dependency or SDK, you don't have to understand create to.
But you're
So
still
I think
missing
that
required context.
So what I feel is that if we make a hard requirement and make it clear of what required means, for example, if we say that technically without the
I'm sorry, Victor, we are losing you.
that would be a required.
We didn't catch that. You kind of like your mic died.
All right. Looks like there is some audio issue, microphone issue with the Victor, so we can move on.
I guess the last one is the add finalized data EIPs. Since Mike is not here, I mean, is there any reason not to add this?
Sorry, I didn't
No.
catch the beginning of that. This is the finalized date?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think this would be reasonable to add. Yeah.
I think we had a discussion about this in the past, and there was some agreement, disagreement. The issue was dropped then. But it's good that we have it back in the form of issue. And yes, if we have consensus there, I believe we just need a pull request. Okay, you have shared the pull request that needs to be merged.
Yeah, Sam can just approve and then I'll do.
Sounds good. Cool. Anything more on preamble topic? All right, we can move on to number 2. That is from GitHub issues and pull request. The first one that we have considered here from issues is merge policy discussion, how final is final. The issue is already added in the EIPIP GitHub repository. So we have seen in the past that there are some improvement suggestions, minor edits are going into final EIPs. In this month only, we have seen 3 final EIPs being edited with small changes. So yeah, this is about discussing how do we decide a final is final.
I'd say backwards compatible, i.e. basically if the EIP is able to be implemented and there's no ambiguity in how it can be implemented, then that's how it has to be. If either of those conditions don't fail, then it is okay to get rid of any ambiguity or to make it so that the EIP can be implemented at all.
I think we need I don't think we can actually write in backwards compatible or backwards incompatible into EIP1 just because, like, let's say the EIP specify a core EIP specifically specified something, and all the clients implemented a different but the same different way. Then when the EIP goes to like after the EIP is moved to final, you would have to change the EIP to match what clients actually implemented.
Okay, how about only for ERCs?
I really just think that we should make it policy to only allow backwards compatible changes to final EIPs, but I don't think we should make it a hard rule because there are times where like if something is wrong with the EIP, like clearly it is not what the author intended, it's just wrong, then I think it's fine to fix the EIP even if it's backwards incompatible. I think backwards compatibility is a good baseline, but we should be allowed to make exceptions to that.
I guess the important question here would be to maybe outline it for people to refer to, like what is the point where.
Oh, go ahead, Portia. Sorry about that.
No, not a problem. So what is the point where we can say that beyond this, we are not going to make any edits, basically to clarify on what kind of edits may or may not be able to get in. And if there are edits which is outside this guidelines, then we can ask author to maybe come up with a new proposal and not edit the existing one, not edit the final proposal.
I'm really not a fan of anything that like actually just straight up changes the meaning of an EIP. I'd be obviously 712 as is just doesn't work. So that can be changed just because there's nothing. It's backwards compatible if there isn't any implementation. But apart from that, I just don't like the idea of, yeah, basically, if it's written some way that can be implemented and it is implemented that way, then that should always, for the rest of eternity, be compatible with that EIP.
I like to respectively challenge that. So first of all, what Sam says, if a core EIP has been implemented and every client have implemented differently from the core EIP, that one turns final, then you need to add changes to the core EIP to reflect what everyone is implementing. I think given the idea of EIP being Ethereum improvement proposal, if everyone is implemented in a same consensus different way, then the better way is to keep the old one as final and create a new one that reflects the true implementation rather than fixing the old one, unless they're not final, right? If the final has been reached, I think changing things make it essentially live. So unless we want to agree that final is still alive, I'm very weakly lean towards making final changeable other than editorial requirement. Like I don't consider backward compatible feature improvements as qualified in this case as well. And that's also why I propose to have a supersede, so that if the author do think that this EIP has been final, but no one is implementing it, it's not being adopted, and everyone has a new idea, then they should have a way to signal what is the better way. So that's my standpoint. And with respect to 721, I think if the author goes to make it a final and realize, sorry,
it's 712, not 721.
It's 712, right? 712,
Yes.
the type signed signature. So 712 on the ERC side is the same. I think if everyone is implemented in a different way, it's a wrong way. The best way is probably just to start a new one, copy the old one, fix it, and then publish that one as new final, or revert in a one-time exception, revert it back to draft or to anything that is not final. Then I think we can modify it. Otherwise, we effectively be undermining our credibility of being final. I don't think as a EIP editor group that's the best in the best reputation, best way to hold the reputation of this group.
So we can't, I think, unless we like completely revamp our process, ever move an EIP out of final. Unless I guess it's also to withdrawn. Maybe we could allow that, but because of the way the merge bots are set up, once an EIP moves out of, like, if an EIP is not final, the editors can change it without EIP editor approval. So you would basically just lose all immutability guarantees if
It would be like even worse than making a one-time change to final.
yeah, like
it's like saying it's final, and now it's like me handing you a gift, and when you open it, suddenly wrapping up the gift, taking it back, and putting a new thing in there, and giving it back to you.
So I'm very strongly against ever moving an EIP out of final.
Okay, compared to having a one-time change.
Yeah, I would
prefer.
because as long as it's in final, the editors can review every minute change to the EIP, but if it's taken out of final, then it's carte blanche. They can do whatever they want to it.
Yeah,
So,
I would agree to Sam, like changing the direction of process flow. I think we had a long discussion on it about a year ago. This is one way, like when it is moving from last call to final, it is unidirectional. However, from last call to review, it can be done.
So let me put the 712 as into context. I'm not sure if any one of you have attempted to implement 712. I
I'm
did.
just
And
gonna say, as is, it's not possible to implement it.
So-
There are no implementations.
let me put it into context. I did, and then for what I know, it's the EIP is largely ambiguous and not even ready. I think it's not even ready for one-time change to make it final. That's why I'm suggesting it has to go to some status that is updatable, that either start a new one or move it back to draft, because I think it would take another several months, several iterations to get to a state that implementations are agreeing on each other. It's currently, we're seeing different I personally see different implementations of what ethers have been doing and what the MetaMask is doing. And so I think that the consensus have not been reached that there's just one commit to go in.
So the
I'm
thing
not
is,
confident that is doable, achievable at the current snapshot of 712. It can take quite long.
there are two specification sections, one of which was just straight up copy and pasted from, I think it's EIP 191. And I'm pretty sure all that needs to be done is just remove that accidentally copied and pasted specification section, and bam, it's done. Currently, as is, it's incompatible with itself. There cannot and will not be any specifications of 712 in this form, just because it has two musts that say two different things. So, as written, it is not possible to implement it, and so therefore, it is also not possible. Therefore, there are no implementations, and therefore, there's nothing that can be broken.
And we're in consensus that at this current snapshot, it doesn't work. No one can implement it. That, I think we're in consensus. I wonder if I make myself clear that even with one change, it is still not capable of being in the final state, like it's in a stable state. I wonder if I make myself clear that I think in my personal experience, ignoring one of the specification, the other specification is not ready to be implemented.
I think we would need to get the authors on that call. I mean, I guess I'm slightly weakly in favor of moving it back to last call, perhaps, just because that last call also requires editors to approve all changes. So there's that.
What is your preference on, like, keep it final, but let the author start a new one, or let someone start a competing one?
So if there are large problems with 712, like to the point where it is ambiguous and you can't implement it well, then I think somebody needs to take EIP 712 and just rewrite it under a new number. That would probably be the best approach.
Yeah,
that would be my that would be my standpoint, and we can wait for 712 author to see if they want to do so, or if someone else come in and compete. That would like fully compatible with the current process, and doesn't break any immutability assumption.
I guess I can provide some information about 712. We had tried, the cat holders had tried to reach out to authors. We did try a lot. Obviously, we contacted some of them. However, they did not show up for pushing the proposal on final status. So it was championed by one of the cat herders. I believe in this case, we can consider that authors are MIA, and having a new proposal, a competing proposal will be good. And when it is proven that the new proposal is fixing all the ambiguity of the 712, probably we can take an attempt to make it withdrawal, and share the new proposal with the rest of the dApp developers that's for adoption.
I agree with every part you said, except for the withdrawing decision has to be made by the original author. If the original author didn't care enough to withdraw it, then we pretty much stuck. Because if we if we open up a precedent that editors can withdraw on behalf of the original author, then I think it can open up another Pandora box.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think editors should be
It's a slippery
withdrawing.
slope.
No, I didn't mean that editor should be doing that. I guess it was being championed by one of the cat herders. So probably we will reach out to that individual and see if this can be solved. But that is going to be a later issue. First, we should look into getting up with a new proposal. So app developers who are looking into implementing of this has some solution. They do not start because this is not implementable. All right, I think in the essence of time, we can probably wrap up this topic. And if anyone has any other comment or suggestion, the issue number is 171, is it? Yeah. On EIPIP GitHub repository. Moving on, the next one is EIPW policy. I guess there is some ongoing conversation and we are waiting on some consensus. Anyone would like to summarize? I think it was again by Victor.
Sorry, can you point me to the matter? I'm just opening up my computer and
Oh, this is only checking changed lines, I think.
which I'm lost. 5469. Yeah, let me check. 469. Yeah. So is there any? I think the Sam and Panda probably most authoritative answer whether it's technically feasible or not. I personally feel that based on other linting tools, it's possible to do so, but like depending on how much it is. Also, like Sam and Panda, do you have preference of not checking only the change line?
I would say probably I'd be okay with EIPW only blocking merges when the IP status changes. So that is something I would be okay with. Now I am much less happy with it only linting changed lines, because then you could have it going from like draft to review, the entire there are a bunch of new things that need changing and that aren't being changed. Is only requiring EIPW to pass for status change PRs a good compromise?
I think that's a good compromise.
I just don't see the value. Like, what's the point of not providing feedback like early on in the process to authors?
So Sam, I can give you some example. I can give you some. Go ahead. Sorry, Panda.
Go ahead. EIPW would still be failing. It wouldn't actually be like, it would still be like giving all the errors and stuff. It just would be that EIPW would no longer be marked as a required check, but the EIP bot wouldn't merge it unless.
No, I get what you're saying, but no one's going to read it if it isn't failing. If it doesn't stop them from merging, no one's going to read it. So, like, what is the benefit of being more permissive?
I don't see one, but.
Victor? Well, I am very much against linting only changed lines because, like I said in my comment, the Boy Scout rule. So, if you edit the file, you should make the file better. And I think that EIPW is probably the best way to do that. And I don't think we should only require lints on status changes, because then when an author is trying to move something from review into last call, then they're suddenly going to get a bunch of stuff that they have to fix that they weren't forced to fix before. And like right before going into last call, that doesn't feel like a great developer experience, I guess. I think we should just have it lint whenever they make a PR. It's not like it's stopping them from making commits, it's just stopping them from merging them. But you know, I don't know. I am not a dictator, so you guys can decide something else if you want.
So can I put something into context and see if that would change your mind or like at least make you hesitate? One of the things we see is some contributors, not necessarily author, contributors who come across one EIP, realize there's a typo, come to fix the typo. I think that's a good spirit, right? And then it's also a good way to get into EIP editoring. And in that case, the micro contributions help out a lot. So that's why I'm suggesting if we allowed merging, just checking the line, like if you touch this line for this scope, maybe it's a good idea that you want to fix the whole thing in the line or even per paragraph. But for the whole file, it scare away people who just want to come in and contribute. I have firsthand experience starting at contributing from Wikipedia. A lot of page I contribute just fixing typos, and then ultimately I become a more regular contributors. So in that spirit, I want you to see if you would reconsider that scenario. And of course, it will be approved by author in our current setup. But I think so long as at the time it moves to the next stage, right? Change status, for example, review or last call or final, then someone, mostly the author, have to be responsible for what is editorial fully checked. So Sam, does that make a good argument for you?
It's I don't think there's anything wrong with the argument. I just don't agree. I think EIPs are standards documents. They're not like crowdsourced explanations of things. So I think there's a little bit of a difference from Wikipedia. And like I do appreciate people coming in. So one, I think we should turn off EIPW for final EIPs for sure, because that's just awfully annoying, and I don't think we want to be fixing the formatting for final EIPs. Unless we're intentionally fixing the formatting for final EIPs, but that's a whole other thing. But for in-process or draft EIPs, I think generally speaking, the author will still be active. So if somebody puts up a pull request fixing a typo in like a non-final EIP, presumably the author will eventually see it and will probably incorporate it into their work. But yeah, I just think it's better to keep everything as strict as possible, especially while they're developing, so that they don't get surprised on like a status change or when they go to final.
Fair enough. Didn't convince you. I would come back and try in 2 years. Yeah, but I think I agree that we can keep it as if for now. I can close this issue and or use the Panda. Do you want to pursue the change the way of that it only check when there's status change, or do we want to just?
You know, I think I'd be okay with it not checking as long as the EIP is final. That I'd be okay with. And I think Sam was also okay with that.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
So if there's just a random EIP that's final that has a typo, then I think, yeah, that is probably okay to be merged without having to fully reformat the entire thing.
How about not check for last call?
Last call should be checked, just because the changes should be made before it is final.
Oh, I see. Not check at for files at final. Right. Yeah, that is consensus for sure. And still keep it on for every other status, every other commits, right?
Sorry?
Yeah, exactly. So keep it on for everything except final EIPs.
Keep it on for everything, every commit except for final commits. Okay, that's the consensus. I, as minority, disagree with that, but I would document it as the consensus. And we can close it.
Thank you. And yeah, for closing the issue, and also Sam and PanaPeep for having this as a decision. I hope this will be noted in the notes for this meeting. Moving on, the next item for discussion here is a pull request number 5443. It is the last comment is for a manual merge. It is with regards to EIP 4881. Anyone has objection there? Yeah.
481.
The pull
This
request.
is the depository snapshot refactor.
Right. Sam, do you have any further concerns? I think they fixed the links per your request.
Yeah, I think it's good to go. I just wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to talk about it here if Greg were to show up, but I guess it's just the 2 or 3 of us. So yeah.
Last opportunity for Greg here to miss this one for raising any concern. But anyway, this proposal is in very early stages. I guess we will have more opportunity to come back on this topic when this is merged as a review. Our last call.
I agree. So long as they have not been last call, I think it should be safe to merge.
Cool. The next one here is a pull request number 5453. That is a request, I guess, suggested by Victor, and this is about a new proposal, smart contract crypto endorsement.
Yeah. I wonder if there's any, because my goal is to put it into let people comment, like have a broader reach. Conflict of interest is my own proposal. So yeah, whatever you decide.
Well, currently there's a bunch of comments I put on there that need addressing. So that's currently where that proposal's at.
I see. Side notes, Panda, I saw that you tend to merge lines. Is there any particular reason that you're doing so? Because Markdown
yes.
actually supports multi-line, and it also help. I will actually be pro multi-line because they allow you to be addressing very precisely what part of the code you want to suggest.
So the reason why I don't like that is just because text editors generally wrap lines for you. But if you have, for example, basically, I like if it can all fit on one line in my text editor. I do quite like it that way. Also, a lot of people think that, oh, it'll force a line break there. No, it does not force a line break there in Markdown. Third of all, yes, I do agree that you're being able to target things more specifically is a kind of a nice feature, but at the same time, Git is smart enough to still somewhat be able to target it enough, I guess. Unless there are two that are exactly the same line, but generally you do all of your changes at that target a specific line at one time. As you can see, like oftentimes I have a required X, required Y, required Z, recommended, whatever. The reason why I prefer it all, and the last reason I prefer it all on one line is just because if there is somehow a smaller screen, then what you get is a full line and then a little extra, and then a full line and a little extra, and on and on and on. And that doesn't look good.
Yeah, I heard what you say. Can I actually make an issue and discuss whether we are ensuring a style or we prefer not to enforce such a style? Because I think the previous consensus I understanding among the group is there's no particular markdown style that is being enforced.
Actually, the consensus is moving actually towards there being a specific style. There's actually
which one do we?
There's actually one of my PRs is open right here. Let me figure it. Add markdown render. This one right here.
Oh, okay. Let me check. That is still, yeah, I think we agreed to have a markdown linter, but I wonder if all the rules in that linter has been agreed upon, especially
All of the rules currently have been agreed. That are set currently have been agreed upon. I'm not sure if the multi-line one has been agreed upon or not. Speaking of
Yeah.
that, Sam, would you mind quickly merging that one?
The markdown linter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it after the call. I just want to go through all the rules.
Can we enable one rule at a time, or like enable
Yes, we can.
hundredth
We can.
line that?
In fact, Micah went through rule by rule and went basically argued why none of the rules should be applied. And
And he quit.
we were successfully able to dissuade him from disabling all of them. But yeah, there's only a few of the rules that are actually applied.
Okay, can I?
And I don't think
my-
the multi-line one is one of them.
I see. Can I propose my objection to reinforce multi-line to be concatenated into one line
Well,
on
actually,
record?
no, what I'm saying is that currently that is not an issue. Technically, according to the config we have set in the markdown linter, you can do multi-line. I personally detest it, but I guess I will no longer force people to not do multi-line, even though it hurts my eyes just by looking at it.
Me too when I do my personal journaling, but when I do Git commitments, I feel that a lot of tools are assuming the line break. So that's why I in the EIP I prefer breaking down them, just because like Git diff much better with different lines rather than single lines, and also GitHub is doing that same thing as well. So that would be my personal argument.
Yeah, I think opening an issue to discuss multi-line versus single line is probably the right approach here. And I think Pooja brought up a good point about we're close to time, so we should move on to the next topic.
I see. Agreed.
Thank you. Probably we can continue discussing in that pull request, adding comments there. We are very close to time, but I wanted to quickly bring up one last item for discussion today. It may not be discussed, but just wanted to share it with people. The item that has been added by Panda Peep, it's a last minute addition, and the pull request number is 5502. It is about adding a new editor. Having a new editor added to the repo and getting them access. I know we do not have all the EIP editors present in this meeting today, so we can probably consider this as an announcement of this pull request, and we'll try to reach out to more editors. Anyone has any comment, thoughts quickly to add on this?
No objections from me.
Sounds good. I think it is waiting on reviewers or editors' approval there. We will try to collect more approvals from editors who are missing here in this meeting today. And if we get over 2 or 3 approvals, then probably it can be merged. Now that we have 5 editors, so 3 sounds okay to me.
Sounds good.
Cool. We have quite a lot of pull requests and other agenda items that we could not touch today. I hope that it will be discussed in the issue number. People may follow the link added to agenda and leave their comment, thoughts, feedback. They are always welcome to come to Cat Herders EIP Editors channel and continue discussing it with creating a separate thread. In the meantime, before we get to the next meeting in 2 weeks from now. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and I hope to see you in 2 weeks. Have a good one, everyone.
See you later.
Thank you for hosting.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.